Hello and welcome to today's live stream, which is all about teaching children aged 9 to 10, that's year 5 or P6 or 4th grade after lockdown. Teaching chaotic classes all over the place with behaviour, all over the place with their maths attainment, big gaps in their learning in the summer term of 2021 after COVID. So this is part of a series. Been doing these live streams every Sunday, and of course you can interrupt and ask questions if you like. And we're up to year 5 now, and as ever there's a 5 top tips sheet. If you go to the description of this video, you'll be able to find a link directly to it. If you're on a phone, you might not be able to do that, so you can go to my Authentic Maths website and into the Rebecca the Maths Lady worksheets, and you'll find a link to this document and to all the other documents we're going to look at today. So what I'm really suggesting is that you need to teach hard some key topics for this year in a way that grabs and includes the children who've got huge gaps in their learning, but also really challenges the children who've done it all to think more deeply and make connections and enjoy their learning. If the behaviour in your class is all over the place, then this type of teaching, low floor, high ceiling teaching, will really help, because every child will be challenged. Every child will feel like they're doing something relevant. So I've got 5 key topics to focus on. First one I'm suggesting, and you don't have to do them in this order, and you may have done some of them already, of course, so you can just tick and move on to other things, is long multiplication, mental and long multiplication using array. So array is so inclusive of everyone's thinking. Where have I put my sheet? For mental multiplication, you're looking at giving children a calculation maybe like 8 times 19, and putting up an array which could be detailed with the squares, getting them to think in their heads, try and puzzle something out. They might do a little bit of doodling, but ideally it's all in their heads. And then try and, as they explain how they did their answers, try and draw it on the grid so everyone can see what everyone else did. So you might have a child who doubled 19 this way and then doubled it again and then doubled it again. You might have a child who did 10 eighths and 9 eighths, so you're splitting it this way. You might have a child who decided to do 10 eighths is 80 and then double it is 160 and then subtract 8, and you can just draw around and show all that. And as ever with these, there are videos that explain these ideas and these teaching methods in more depth. If you just click on the links in the document, there's your mental multiplication video. And then long multiplication. The video on this looks long, but it's not, it's only 10 minutes. The rest of the video is all about the teaching theory behind what's going on here. You start with arrays like this, where you're doing a multiplication just as before, but one of the numbers is between 13 and 20. Or 13 and 19 is what works. So of course, every child can access this task because you're just counting squares. And then you're looking for shortcuts. So you might start to take off some 10 by 10 squares or 100 each time. And gradually over time, we're nudging children to cutting off a rectangle that's 10 high. So that's going to be 10 lots of 27, which is 270. And then they can focus on 9 times 27, which they can do. If they can do short multiplication, which if they can't, you need to delve in there and go back to that video and help them with that. And once they've got the hang of that, you can move on to more complex long multiplications. All these worksheets are available, and you can get infinite generation on them as well through the system where you click on a link and you get more. So for 36 times 6, you're going to be developing the standard method for long multiplication, but you can also draw it on here as you go. So you can see the 20 lots of 36 and the 6 lots of 36 and how it's all coming together. But you can also reach out to other methods children may naturally want to use. It should be possible to illustrate all of them on there. And then you've got great foundations in place for them to go on and do amazing work with mental work on long multiplication in the next year. And if they're bored with that, you can do some work on multiplication with fractions. What about something like 4.5 times 7? You can actually draw it, just using the same theory. And count the squares. And of course, next year we're going to go on to multiplication of fractions using exactly the same method. So this is amazing foundational work. So that was your first suggestion from the sheet. Where have I put that sheet of 5 tips? It's here. Doing lots on multiplication with array, but with a focus on long multiplication. Now within long multiplication, some children struggle with small tables facts if they've got gaps in their learning. Remember, we don't want to just give them multiplication squares because that's bypassing the issue, and there is an issue that needs to be addressed. So you might give them counting beads to help them really see the structure of their tables, give them a bit of support in working out those results. Or, this being 2021, you could give them this multiplication grid so they can actually pop out individual multiplication facts and see those results. Or maybe not if that annoys you. Right, next one. Teach short division. So we just want to revise short division briefly. It's all right to challenge even your most able children just to do a bit as a warm-up because they're still young, they still need to practice their fluency in these facts. And then you want to move on to division with decimals, and then the 6 treatments of remainders from division. And of course there's a video on that. It's a really powerful and important topic in this year. You may have done it already, if so, great. If you're not sure, do watch the video because it'll explain things in much more detail. Third one is teaching using the number line. So we need to make sure children are flexibly using their number line in their imagination, zooming in and out. We can do lots of mental addition and subtraction with an open number line, where it doesn't matter precisely where the numbers go as long as larger numbers go that side and smaller numbers go that side. And of course there's a video on that. We want to use the number line to zoom in and see larger numbers. We want lots of images of larger numbers up to 1 million, but using the number line to zoom in is one of those, and there's a video on that and how we link it to Dean's blocks and other images of large numbers. So do a bit on that. We want to explore decimal places. So if that's 0 and that's 1, where is 0.235? Hello. Good to see if you're watching. Please do say hi. And can you represent those numbers to 3 decimal places in different ways? So if you had 0.325, that would be 325 1,000ths, but it would also be 3/10ths, 200ths, and 5,000ths, or it would be 3/10ths and 25,000ths. That kind of thing is all covered in the video on understanding 3 decimal places. And then there's rounding and rounding decimals as well. So that's all about being able to place numbers on the number line confidently and being able to visualize which point they are closest to when you're thinking with different scales. So all of that fits. Just distracted by the comments there. If anyone apart from Mahmood is watching, please do say hi. Yeah, so there's videos on each bit of that. Very powerful teaching for this year group. Should really engage them, drive the connections between all these different topics which all sit on the number line. Point 4 is teaching using the proportion bar. The proportion bar is the bar model where the size of the bar is controlled so that 1 remains the same size all the time. It's like a fraction wall, but we do it as an interactive visual tool. The one I recommend is on MathSpot if you go into bar modelling, and then you can click on the proportion bar. And it's brilliant for understanding equivalent fractions, comparing the size of fractions, adding and subtracting fractions. So that's the 4th model that we want children to really, really clearly see in their imaginations at this stage. And then, of course, there's all the applied maths. Now, there's one topic that I wanted to really focus in on for this year group, and that is area and perimeter and the contrast between them. So if you're going to do one applied topic, I would do that one. Just looking, I recommend one particular rich task, which I can't find, even though I drew it out just before I started this session. Where's it gone? It's the rich task where, oh, here we go. You start with a single shape. This is a rectangle that's 5 centimetres wide, 3 centimetres high. And you draw a noughts and crosses grid, and children try and find things for each section where the perimeter is getting larger that way and the area is getting larger that way. So obviously down here you can have any really big shape because it's got larger area and larger perimeter. And down here you could have any really small shape because it would have smaller area and smaller perimeter, but then it gets a bit more complicated in the other sections. That's the challenge. Can they be as creative as possible? Really nails and challenges their thinking about area and perimeter at this stage. And of course, area links back to array. It's the same thing if you teach multiplication with array, you're teaching multiplication through area. So there are 5 topics to zoom in on. If children are flying with any particular topic, I'm recommending Gareth Metcalf's books, I See Reasoning and I See Problem Solving for Extension Activities. If you download them, if you click on the relevant topic, you should be able to find related extension activities, but make sure you go to the end of the section because your Bright Sparks are going to be looking for the most challenging problems in each section. Hello, if you're watching, say hi. If you've got any questions, I'm really happy to take them. What else? Yeah, the wider documents will be at the same place, www.authenticmaths.co.uk/worksheets, and there'll be links. If you're on a laptop, you'll be able to see links in the description. If you're on a phone, you might not be able to see it, but I've got the curriculum extract for Year 5, which is here, and my year planning guide. If you're teaching the whole of the Year 5 curriculum, term per page planning guide, that's like a whole term. It explains it. And it's all cross-linked so you can see how it covers the whole curriculum completely. So if you've got time to go beyond those core challenge teaching topics, you can have a quick glance through the curriculum or through this to see what else you might like to cover. But if a Year 6 teacher, if the teacher in the next year gets a class, if a teacher in the next class gets a class who've done those 5 topics on the 5-point sheet really, really thoroughly, they are going to be a very lucky teacher because, wow, has this been a tough year. So if there's no more questions, I will just love you and leave you this morning. If you haven't seen my puppets video, it seems to be going quite well, and there's another one in the planning, Harder Maths with Puppets. It's the thing for this summer. Okay, take care. Bye for now.